Okay, let me get this up here.
Pull yours up. All you gotta do is hit record. Okay, hang on. I'm about to turn mine on. We can do this. Nicorette can help.
She got a can opener. It's a hot dog.
Start show.
I'm parched.
Okay, we are live again today, which is 11/16/2025. So, we are a little bit early, just by like a few minutes. We are discussing about James Bulger, the little 3-year-old that was killed.
2-year-old.
2. That was killed.
By 2 10-year-old boys.
Yes, they were 10, not very old at all. We were talking about that on our last podcast, which we were talking about the movie Two Little Monsters. I don't know if you guys remember us talking about that. And it was a 1993 movie. And it talks about the two kids, the 2 10-year-olds that had killed this little boy. So that's what we're going to get into today. Anyway, so this happened back in 1993 on February 12th. This was back in England. I don't know if you guys
followed it or not.
Yeah, that was back in. Yeah, that was a while ago. England. That's awful. You wouldn't think this kind of thing. England.
Could happen anywhere.
Well, yeah, absolutely it could. Anyway, okay. On February 12th, 1993, in Merseyside, England, 2 10-year-old boys, Robert Thompson and John Venables, abducted and tortured and murdered a 2-year-old boy, James Patrick Bulger. He was born March 16th, 1990 to February 12th, 1993. So he had just turned 3.
He was almost 3, yeah.
Yeah, he was almost 3. Thompson and Venable, his name was James Patrick Bulger. Thompson and Venables led Bulger away from the New Strands shopping center in Bootle, where Bulger was visiting shops with his mother. His mutilated body was found on a railway line 2.5 miles away in Walton, Liverpool, 2 days later. Liverpool.
Yeah. Can you imagine not knowing what happened to your kid for 2 full days?
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine. That poor mother. Because you figure back in that time, things were a lot different back then. Well, I guess, there were still things that could have happened.
But if you're just an average Joe, you don't imagine someone kidnapping your kid. Mm-hmm. So you're...
Well, you don't think 2 10-year-olds are going to kill another 10-year-old. Another kid, sorry.
No.
2 10-year-olds, you would think that... No, absolutely not. You would never even think that 2 10-year-olds would kill a little boy or a little girl. It doesn't matter. They were playing truant from school, which they did regularly. Throughout the day, Thompson and Venables were seen shoplifting various items, including sweets, batteries, a troll doll. A troll doll?
Yeah.
You remember how popular those were?
My son had a whole bin of them.
The ones with the little... People don't know what
and
those are.
If you go play bingo, there's people that have 2 or 3. It's
Roseanne, whatever.
Yeah, they really do when you go to bingo. It's this ugly
They're little
dolls.
They're like this
fuzzy
big.
hair.
Yeah, and they have these hair all over the place. Sometimes they have little diamonds or something, or little jewels in the middle.
But they used to be supposedly good luck.
Yeah.
And then the kids started collecting them. They were real big here for a minute.
And a can of blue Hubrol bottling paint. One boy later said that before abducting Bulger, they were planning to abduct a child, lead him to a busy road alongside the shopping center and push him into oncoming traffic.
Where is a 10-year-old's thoughts to admit this? I mean,
well, why would they even think of doing that? Why would you think of abducting a kid?
I don't know. I didn't think about skipping out on school when I was 10 years old either, though. My mom would have had my ass on a sling.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah, it's crazy.
The same afternoon, 2-year-old James Bulger from Kirby was at the New Strands Shopping Center with his mother Denise. At approximately 3:40 in ARTMYS Butcher Shop.
That was the name of the butcher shop.
And on the lower floor, Denise momentarily let go of James' hand to pay for her shopping and discovered he was missing. Now, for her, she probably thought he turned around and
just
left for a
wandered
second.
off a bit.
Yeah, you know how kids go looking in trash cans or video game things in the center or anything. Even the food court kids go whatever. This act was let's see, where was that?
But she was holding his hand up until she went to pay for her goodies.
Yeah. Thompson and Venables had approached Bulger, taking him by the hand and led him out of the shopping center. This act was caught on CCTV at 3:42. Now, their TV thing was very low quality. It wasn't that great, but they could see, just what they needed to know what to look for and how to go about.
Yeah, because if you go online and look at the pictures, you can tell that it's a little kid, but you can't really tell his facial.
You can tell the 2 boys that took them, but you can't really tell what they are. They had to enhance it a lot. Thompson and Venables took Bulger to the Leeds and Liverpool Canal around a fourth of a mile from Strand's shopping center, where they dropped him on his head. They dropped him on his head?
Yeah, well, he's only
2.
He's
so
little, so he's probably not going to be able to walk a quarter mile by himself.
Well, they probably picked him up and just let him drop, causing facial injuries and joked about pushing him into the canal. An eyewitness later described Bulger at the canal as crying his eyes out. The boys took Bulger on a 2.5-mile walk across Liverpool, during which they were seen by 38 people. 38 people.
38 people
and
seen
nobody
this,
said anything,
and no one intervened that
and
this kid's bleeding and crying.
His face was all messed up.
Mm-hmm.
However, most bystanders did not intervene when questioned. Thompson and Venables claimed that Bulger was either their brother or a lost child. They were taken to the police station. At one point, the boys took Bulger into a pet shop from which they were rejected. Now, today's people, they would have their phones out. They'd be questioning. They'd
be videoing the fact that these little 10-year-olds are responsible for that.
Oh yeah, they would want to be Facebook famous and say, "I found these people with this little boy." It would be a big all-out thing here nowadays. Eventually, the boys arrived in Walton. Yeah, with Walton.
Lane Police Station.
Yeah, Layton Police Station. Across the road, they hesitated, then led Bulger up a steep bank railway near former Walton and Anfield Railroad Station. One of the boys threw paint through the blue paint, and that they had shoplifted earlier into his left eye, Bulger's left eye. They kicked him and stamped him and threw bricks and stones at him, and they forced batteries into his mouth. That's just horrible. That poor kid, and that probably lasted forever for him, and he just didn't know what was going on. They may have inserted something in his anus, though none were found there. The boys, their last thing they did to him was dropped a 22-pound railway fish plate on him, resulting in 10 skull fractures. Pathologists concluded that Bulger sustained 42 injuries, none of which could be identified as the fatal blow. Wow.
So this poor little boy went through hell and high water there.
Yeah, a little bit.
But they took him across the railway tracks and they weighed his head down with rubble. Their intention was for passing trains to strike him, making the death appear accidental.
Yeah.
His body was severed by a train after they departed the scene. But the sad part is 4 boys looking for footballs 2 days later found him.
Yes.
So now they're going to be traumatized by what they found. But he died from his injuries before he was hit by the train, according to forensics.
Upon the discovery of Bulger, the police suspected sexual assault. But because you figure they had his socks and pants and underpants off. They also said, the pathologist also said that his the foreskin was pulled back too. That's really hard to say if they were just trying to look down there or what they were doing. They never said any details on this, Thompson and Venables. They never
Admitted to anything like that.
Never mentioned any
Just
details
about
on it.
beating him up and throwing stuff at him.
Years after parole, psychiatrist said Venables continued to deny any sexual offense that had happened. Police viewed surveillance, not very good images, showing the unidentified boys abducting Bulger from the New Strand shopping center. One boy was detained and later released. His family was forced to flee the city because of threats. So they might have thought that maybe they were involved until they found out otherwise. I'm assuming. Because that boy he's not really mentioned any other time except for now. A breakthrough came when a woman seeing enhanced images of the 2 boys on television. She recalled seeing Venables playing with Thompson in the Boodle area. They were being truant that day, which they have in the past. Her call led to their arrest. Forensics tests confirmed that the same blue paint on their clothing was the same on Bulger's on his body, and that both had blood on their shoes, and a pattern of bruising on the right cheek matched the features of the upper part of the shoe, or upper part of his shoe worn by Thompson. So the bruise on his cheek matched Venables' shoe print. Isn't that crazy? He kicked them that hard
To leave an impression on his face.
Now Venables, he looks like, if you ever look at the pictures, he kind of looks like the ringmaster. Robert Thompson probably just went along with a lot of it because I think he might have been a little scared of John. I'm really not for sure. I don't know. That I couldn't really tell you.
Well, Robert's the one that asked if they took him to the hospital to get him alive again.
Yes, yes. They were both charged with the murder of James on the 20th of February, 93. Uh, that's, wow.
But they do things different than we do over here.
That's true. They appeared at the youth court on the 22nd of February, where they were remanded in custody and to wait. They remained in custody to wait a trial, and then aftermath of their arrest throughout the media, their trial, the boys were analyzed as Child A, which was Thompson, and Child B as Venables.
But they call it detention over there instead of, like over here, you go to, if you're that young, I don't know what the hell they do
Youth
over
Detention
here.
Center. They call it detention over there.
Yeah.
They were awaiting trial. They were secure units, eventually be sentenced and detained. Up to 500 protesters gathered at the court during the boys' initial court appearances. The full trial opened on November 1st, 1993. It was conducted as an adult trial because they knew. Don't tell me they didn't know what they were doing.
Right,
like they
right
planned
from
this. This was premeditated. That is just
because at first they admitted that they were going to just push some. They knew they were going to abduct someone, and then they said they were just going to push them out into traffic, and then they ended up doing this instead.
Yeah,
they should be trialed as adults.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Absolutely. With the accused in the dock away from their parents and the judge and court officials and the legal stuff, the boys denied the charges of murder, abduction, and attempted abduction. The attempted abduction was that charge was related to an incident in New Strand Shopping Center earlier on February 12, 1993, the day of his death. Theodore's death. Thompson and Venables had attempted to lead away another 2-year-old boy, but had been prevented by the boy's mother. So, I mean,
how are you gonna say you didn't do it when you got a footprint on your face? Dum 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 dum.
Each boy sat in the view of the court on raised chairs so they could see out of the dock designed for adults and were accompanied by
They had to have booster chairs.
Oh my
Jesus. It just dawned on me.
They were accompanied by 2 social workers and guards. Although separated by their parents, they were within touching distance with their families attending the trial. News stories reported that the demeanor of the defendants, these aspects were later criticized by the European Court of Human Rights, which ruled in 1999 that they had not received a fair trial, tried in public in adult court. Well, they should be, because they knew what they were doing. You can't tell me just because they're young, their brain doesn't know right from wrong. It might not be fully developed, I understand, but they planned this out. That's the thing. If they wouldn't have planned it, they just went and did it out of whatever, maybe, I don't know. But they planned this. This whole thing was planned. News stories reported that the defendants' aspects were later criticized, but they said they didn't get a fair trial. But at the trial, the lead prosecution successfully rebutted the principle of it, which presumes that young children cannot be held legally responsible for their actions, which that is not true. They planned this.
Well, the parents didn't send them out to do it.
No, they planned it. Thompson and Venables were considered by the court capable of mischievous discretion, which meaning ability to act with a criminal intent, as they were mature enough to understand what they were doing something seriously wrong. And they know they were. They just told you what they were planning on doing: push him into traffic, put him in the canal. They hit him they dropped him on his head. They were gonna do all this stuff to him, and they knew what they were doing. A child psychologist interviewed Thompson before the trial was asked in court whether he would know the difference between right and wrong, and that it was wrong to take a young child away from his mother, and that it was wrong to cause injury to a child. And the psychologist replied, "If the issue is on the balance of probabilities, I think I can answer with certainty that Thompson said that Thompson was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder after the attack on Bulger." Please.
Really?
Please.
Come on.
Listen, I know we're not supposed to really judge here, but he has PTSD from something he did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Reaching for straws there.
They're trying everything to get this kid off. Wow. I can't believe that was even said.
But they said unequivocally that he knew the difference between right and wrong.
Absolutely he did.
If you brag about you were going to push someone into traffic, but then you decide to abduct them, well, I'm sorry. You know right from wrong then.
She said that he knew the difference between right and wrong, though. So, right there tells you. Thompson and Venables did not speak during the trial, well, I can imagine, and the case against them was based to a large extent on the more than 20 hours of tape-recorded police interviews with the boys, which were played back in court. Thompson was considered to had taken the lead in an abduction, so... Wow. Robert Thompson?
Mm-hmm.
It would seem more like John Venables did that, but that's...
Yeah, I had already read that, so I was waiting for you to go, wait a minute.
Though it was Venables who apparently initiated the idea of taking Bulger to the railway line, Venables later described how Bulger seemed to like him, holding his hand, allowing him to pick him up in the meandering journey to the scene of the murder. Lawrence Lee, who was a solicitor of Venables during the trial, later said that Thompson was one of the most frightening children he had seen in comparison to the Pied Piper. Wow.
That's something.
After his appearance in court, Venables would strip off his clothes, saying, "I can smell James like a baby smell." The prosecution admitted a number of exhibits during the trial, including a box of 27 bricks, a blood-stained stone, Bulger's underpants, a rusty iron bar described as a railway fish plate. The pathologist spent 33 minutes outlining injuries sustained by Bulger, many of those to his legs, and had been inflicted after he was stripped from the waist down. Brain damage was extensive, including hemorrhage.
33 minutes is a long time to hear how many different ways your kid was hurt. That's horrific.
Mm-hmm.
Unreal.
Yeah. That's just crazy, ain't it?
But they were found guilty. Unreal.
They were, eventually, they were found guilty of the abduction. Let's see, the boys by then, age 11, were found guilty of his murder, on November 24th, which making them the youngest convicted murderers in modern British history, which they were sentenced to indefinite detention at Her Majesty's pleasure and remained in custody until parole board decided a decision in June 2001. Recommended that the release on a life license at age 18. Venables was sent to prison in 2010 for breaching the terms of his license, which was released on parole again in 2013. In 2017, November, was sent again to prison for possessing child pornography images on his computer. His 2023 appeals for parole were rejected. So Venables is still in prison.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not due to this.
No.
adduced doing something
So that
again.
so if you think about it, that means he probably did some sexual stuff to him.
Absolutely.
Because, they said the foreskin was pulled back, so therefore he wasn't circumcised. So maybe the other boys were circumcised and they would never seen that before, so they were trying to figure out, if it was what was going on with it. Like, why was his like that and theirs wasn't? I mean, I'm not trying to talk sexual here, but I'm just stating. They said his foreskin wasn't pulled back, or his foreskin was pulled back. So there probably was some sexual stuff going on, and I'm not saying with Thompson. I'm saying with Venables. Maybe he was, maybe he did do something, and he made the other one not say anything about it. Does anybody have any questions about that? Because that's just kind of, I know that's kind of curiosity. Shortly after the trial, though, the judge recommended a minimum sentence of 8 years. And recommended the boys should be served a minimum of. Recommended that the boys should serve a minimum of 10 years, which would have made them eligible for release in 2023 at the age of 20. The editors of The Sun handed a petition bearing nearly 280,000 signatures.
Wow.
In a bid to increase the time spent by both boys in custody. The campaign was successful, and Howard announced in July 1994, the boys would be kept in custody for a minimum of 15 years, meaning they'd be not considered for release until February 2008. By that time, they'd be 25. Lord Donaldson criticized Howard's intervention, describing that the increased tariff as institutionalized vengeance. The increased minimum term was overturned in 1997 by the House of Lords that ruled it unlawful for a Home Secretary to decide a minimum sentence for young offenders. The High Court of Justice and European Court of the Human Rights have since ruled, although a parliament may have set a minimum of maximum terms for individual categories of crime. So basically, it's a responsibility of the trial judge to benefit all the evidence and everything, and argue from both prosecution and defense to determine which, minimal term for each individual case. Tony Blair, then the Shadow Home Security, gave a speech in Wellington and said, "We hear crimes so horrific they provoke a disbelief in equal proportions." But the trial judge, Mr. Justice Morrill, stated that the exposure to violent videos might encourage the actions of Thompson and Venables. This was a dispute. The Minister of the State Home Office at the time said the police found no evidence linking into the case of that. So they're trying to say maybe like Child's Play 3 or something like that, or a Chucky doll or anything like that could have maybe inspired them to do something like this. But I really don't think that inspired them, because they knew what they were doing. Chucky didn't push people. Well, he did push people, I guess. I can't say he didn't push people. He did. He did. But there's a lot of kids their age that watch that and don't go out and killing people. I mean, they know right from wrong. They know Chucky's a doll. Police did investigate, found Child's Play 3 was among the films that Venables' father had rented in the months prior to the killing. There's no evidence that Venables ever watched it. Police reviewed 200 titles rented by Venables' family and concluded there was nothing, no scene or plot or dialogue. So they can't say that that's why he went out and committed that murder. Despite their findings, they really don't have a reason why he really did it. The boys were taught to conceal they were taught to conceal their real new names and crime they had committed, which resulted in their being in that units. Venables' parents regularly visited their son at the Red Bank, just as Thompson's mother did. Every 3 days at Barton Moss, the boys received education and rehabilitation despite initial problems. Venables had eventually made good progress at Red Bank and resulted in him being kept there for the full 8 years despite the facility. It's only been like it's supposed to be a short stay. The boys reported to suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, and Venables in particular told of experiencing nightmares and flashbacks of the murder. That's his own deal there, though.
Yeah.
He killed and stuff like that. I mean, you have post-traumatic stress, that's on you. You know, I mean, it's not like you witnessed it, you were involved in it. Their appeal and their release, in 1999, the lawyers for Thompson and Venables appealed the rights for a trial not be impartial. In September 1999, the Bulger's parents appealed about them that the victim has a right to be involved in determining the sentence of the perpetrator. In the European case, reviewing the minimum sentence in October 2000, he recommended that tariff reduced from 10 to 8 years. Wow. In June 2001, after a 6-month review from the parole board, ruled that Thompson and Venables were no longer a threat to public safety, could be released as their minimum tariff February that year. It was reported that Thompson and Venables were given new identities and moved to secret locations under witness protection.
See, I don't agree with that. I don't think they should be under protective anything.
No, you take it, man.
They should just be thrown out there with the wolves.
The terms of the release included the following. They were not allowed to contact each other or the Bulger's family. They are prohibited from visiting Merseyside region. Curfews may impose on them, and they must report to probation officers if they breach the rules or deemed to the public, they could be returned to prison. A court injunction was imposed on the media trial. Their new identifications could not be published. The injunction was granted there because the real and strong possibility their lives would be at risk if their identities became known.
Okay, so it's okay to protect their identity and everything. So someone else over there is going to one day bump into them and might get married with them and have a kid. And are those babies going to be protected too?
Can you imagine if we found them?
Can you imagine if you found out that your child's dead because...
Yeah, or what if they got married or something and they had kids and then something to the kid, or it was your babysitter? Yeah.
I mean, what if you find out that it could have been prevented, but because they protected them, you didn't know?
Now this is interesting. In the months after the trial and following the birth of their second son, the marriage of Bulger's parents, Ralph and Denise, broke down. They divorced in 1995. Denise Bulger later married Stuart Fergus, whom she had 2 sons. Ralph Bulger also remarried and had 3 daughters with his second wife, so they had quite a few kids after him. But that had to have been hard, too, you know. It's like, they probably feel like
I'm sure he blamed the wife for not keeping a better eye on him, and it probably wore the relationship down.
On March 14, 2008, an appeal was set up. And Merseyside memory of James Bulger was launched by his mother. Let's see,
put a memorial garden.
Yeah, was created in Sacred Heart Primary School. That's probably where he went to. Hometown Kirby. Okay. The school said he would have been expected to attend and not have been murdered if he had not been murdered. Okay, so that would have been the school he would have attended. Wow. In March 2010, call was made by the England's Children's Commissioner to raise the age of criminal responsibility from 10 to 12. She said the killers of James should have undergone programs to help turn their lives around rather than be prosecuted. The Ministry of Justice rejected the call, saying children over the age of 10 know the difference between bad behavior and wrongdoing. And they're right. Absolutely. They knew right from wrong. Oh, that's just... upon release, both Venables and Thompson had lost all trace of their Scouse accents.
Oh, but in 2013, someone posted pictures of them as adults. So people still kind of know what they look like out there.
Yeah, the psychiatric report in 2000, before Venables' release, he was described as posing as a trivial risk to the public and unlikely to reoffend. Apparently that wasn't right. The chances his successful rehabilitation were described as high. The published details suggest the names were secured of the secured institutions in which the pair were housed and breached injunction of December of that year. The paper was fined $30,000 because they were contempt from court in order to pay court costs of $120,000 for no significant publication or vigil against Thompson and Venables had occurred. Despite this, Bulger's mother, Denise, told how 2004 she received a tip-off from an anonymous source that helped her locate Thompson. Upon seeing him, she was paralyzed with hatred and was unable to confront him. Wow. In 2010, this is a false identification internet trolling.
Mm-hmm.
A 19-year-old man from an island of Man was given a 3-month suspended prison sentence for falsely claiming in a Facebook message that one of his former colleagues was Thompson in passing sentence. Deeply High bailiff said that the teenager had put that person at significant high risk of serious harm and in a perilous position by making that allegation. Wow. In 2012, a 26-year-old man from Corley, Lancashire was arrested after allegedly setting up a Facebook group with the title, "What Happened to James Bulger Was Fucking Hilarious." The man's computer was seized for further investigation.
And they gave a 53-year-old woman 15 months because she put pictures of them as adults. So
Isn't
they're
that
protecting them more than the family.
Yeah, yeah.
Unreal.
Wow. Yeah, she posted their social, and then she said, well, they were given like, they've been posting photos on social media and claimed identified Venables as both suspended prison sentences in March 2019. Tina Malone, an actress, was given 8 months suspended sentence prison for posting them. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't see why.
Oh, and then Venables was arrested again in 2008 following a fight outside a nightclub.
Well, he's not keeping himself very
and
discreet, is he?
3 months later, he was found in possession of cocaine and subject to his curfew.
Yeah, yeah.
So he's just...
Venables was shortly before his 2001 release, when age 17, Venables was alleged to have sex with a woman who worked at the Red Bank security unit where he was held. In 2011, in the aftermath after his 2010 imprisonment, the allegations were outlined in the Sunday Times Magazine article, who had been following the Bulger case since 1993, and again, the BBC documentary titled John Venables, What Went Wrong. The female staff member was suspended for sexual misconduct. She never returned to the work at Red Bank. A spokesperson denied that the innocent had been covered up, saying all allegations were thoroughly investigated by the independent team. So, Venables began living independently in 2002, sometime after. He began a relationship with a woman who had a 5-year-old child. We do not know whether Venables had begun downloading child abuse images at the time of dating the woman, although he denies having ever met the child. Um, After a period apparently reduced supervision, Venables began excessively drinking, taking drugs, and downloading child abuse images, as well as visiting Maryside, which had a breach of his license. In September 2008, Venables was arrested on suspicion of a fray following a fight outside a nightclub, like you said. He claimed it was self-defense, but the charges were dropped, and he agreed to go on an alcohol awareness course. 3 months later, he was found in possession of cocaine, and he was subjected to curfew. Now, in 2005, when he was 23, Venables, his probation officer met another girlfriend of his who was age 17. After a number of young girlfriends, it was presumed Venables was having delayed adolescence. In 2008, a new probation officer says he spent a great deal of leisure time playing video games on the internet. Wow. Venables in 2010 contacted his probation officer, reported that he feared that his new identity had been compromised at his place of work. When the officer arrived at his flat, Venables was, well, his flat's his house, I guess that's what they call it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Venables was attempting to remove or destroy the hard drive of his computer with a knife and a tin opener. The officer's suspicions were aroused and the computer was taken away, and that's when they found that he had child sexual abuse, which included children as young as 2 being raped by adults. And
But he has PTSD.
and penetrative rape of 7, 8, or 8-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
In 2010, Venables had returned to prison for unspecified violations of terms. Wow.
He's just not staying out of trouble.
No, and the judge made decision to grant Venables anonymity in 2001, warned Venables that he could be killed if his identity was revealed.
So be it.
Yeah. Bulger's mother, Denise Fergus, said she was angry that the board did not tell her about Venables having returned to prison. Wow. Venables returned to prison revived as a false claim that a man from Fleetwood was Venables. While the claim was reported and dismissed, it reappeared in March 2010 on Facebook. Wow. As an individual who was targeted 4.5 years ago was not John Venables and now has left the area. That's crazy. Now, Venables, he was charged with possession, distribution of indecent images of children. It was alleged that he had downloaded 57 indecent images of children over a 12-month period. Venables faced 2 charges under the Child Protection Law in '78. That Venables appeared to the court and through video visible to the judge in the hearing case. He pleaded guilty to the charge of downloading and distributing child sexual abuse material and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. It emerged that Venables had posed online chat rooms as a 35-year-old Donnie Smith, a supposedly married woman from Liverpool who boasted about abusing her 8-year-old daughter in hope of obtaining further sexual abuse material. Seriously? I don't even know. Like, what are these judges thinking? Venables' new identity could not be revealed, but the media reported that he had been living in Cheshire at the time of his arrest. They said 24-hour surveillance would have stopped Venables. Venables was eligible for parole in 2011, But then the board decided he remained in custody and that his parole has not been considered for at least another year. That's just... Well, in 2013, he was released from prison. And then in 2017, he again been recalled to prison for possession of more child sexual abuse imagery. Pedophilia the pedophilia manual that included advice for would-be child molesters, including instructions on child grooming and evading detection. He was sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in prison. In 2020, he was denied parole, and in 2023, he was denied again. The parole saying that the panel was not satisfied that his release on point would be safe for public. Well, yeah. In 2019, Bulger's father, Ralph, lost a legal challenge to a lifelong lift order protecting Venable's identity. The nature of the case meant that there's a strong possibility, if not probability, that his identity were known, he would be pursued, resulting in grave fatal consequences. Well, why not? But they're not gonna do it. In response to the media coverage, New Zealand Prime Minister remarked that due to his criminal history, Venables would not need an exemption under the Immigration Act, that he should not bother applying. Wow. But if you've ever watched, now see the movie, it was a pretty good movie, Two Little Monsters, but it has a totally different ending. Totally different ending than this. I mean, it pretty much covers what they did, but then they go a little bit further, stuff that didn't really happen, but they had to make it into the movie. You'd have to watch it to understand what I'm saying. Have you watched the movie yet?
No.
No, I've watched the movie. It was pretty good. It basically showed what had happened, but it shows John Venables, how he was like still getting into trouble afterwards and still trying to contact people and everything like that. But in the movie, it shows that his mom didn't want nothing to do with him, and he was trying to he contacted his mom too.
I just can't fathom being 10 years old and thinking about throwing someone into the traffic.
Yeah. Well, he did. He is just something else. I can't even think of.
No words?
No, there are no words for him. Do you guys have any questions or anything like that? I'm not sure how to say your name. Malawi Esther? Do you have any questions or anything? Or is there anything you want to discuss on it? think they're gonna figure out who these kids are.
No, because every time they try and leak a picture or something, they end up getting thrown in jail. They've got more rights than the public.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's with any criminal, don't you know? For anybody else that has just joined us, we are also on YouTube too. You know, inside the minds of serial killers. It's with a Z, so when it shows up, it says "Did you mean?" You just hit the one with a Z, and then it'll show up. But it's still the pure evil inside the mind of serial killers. But that little boy, he was only 2. He had just probably turned 3, I think, or close to being 3. And then his parents ended up divorcing shortly after. But I can understand what you're saying though, because of the whole situation of everything.
I mean, if you look online at the pictures of the so-called detention hall, it's an eight bedroom, like a townhouse.
It's kind of like a group
It's
home.
just ridiculous.
It kind of looks like a group home in a way.
But it's like, come on, that's the best you can do for what they did. I just don't get it.
They probably did it because of their young age, but still, they knew better. Like, you should have done better on that. But
I don't get it. 10 years old, I sure wasn't thinking about pushing people into traffic, though.
no, not by a long shot.
And I really don't imagine my relationship with the father lasting, because there's going to be a lot of he said, she said, and blame, because you just go through. But to say that you have PTSD from something you did yourself, how isn't someone grabbed this kid by the head?
Flashbacks. He deserves to have flashbacks.
Well, he could have had too strong a one if he's going online looking up all that crap still.
Well, he keeps getting arrested for that, so why don't they just like keep him?
Leave him in there.
Put him on a psych ward. But I guess the psych ward really wouldn't do anything for him either. I don't know. There's got to be a special institution for people like him. I'm just saying. Like,
Called Alcatraz.
like he just needs to be locked away. I mean.
But they're right. If they do find their identity, probably someone's going to go after them. Not that one death, you know, it's good for another, but it's just horrible. Absolutely horrible that she lost her kid in that way.
Yeah. Well, she had a couple more after that. Well, 3, and then he had 3. Because she had one with his father again, and then she had 2 more by somebody else, and then he remarried, and then he had 2
Well, it's
more.
nice they could move on. Some people can't.
Yeah, just like
After a
that
tragedy.
that last one we did with the that last kid that killed that little boy.
Yeah.
That I'll tell you what.
Do we have any new pictures to show?
No, everything's still the same. You know, we have the same stuff for sale. Supposedly we're getting new pictures and stuff like that. They just haven't come in yet. So we're going to do. Is that wrong? it'll be our next podcast will be.
Gotta watch how the holidays fall. I don't
Yeah.
have my phone down here. It's odd. Yeah, I do.
November 30th. 6:30, and you can go to our Facebook page, which is Pure Evil Inside the Mind of Serial Killers, or it's called K.A. Blasner, K-E-A-N, Blasner. You can go to either one of those pages, and it says right by the Blasner, it says, serial killers, so you know it's us. That updates it. We are on YouTube also, and we will be, we do updates on our YouTube, on our Facebook page. So we are doing our next one on Joshua Dotson. He is a self-proclaimed serial killer. Self-proclaimed.
Yeah. Self-proclaimed. Shot 5. Included his girlfriend and an unborn child, and he calls himself a serial killer and compared himself to Michael Myers. Here we go again, blaming a movie on the reason why you would do something.
He was sentenced to an additional 159 years for a triple homicide, so his total sentence is 261 years for 5 murders. He ain't going nowhere. Not anytime soon. Yeah, so November 30th at 6:30, that will be our next podcast. Does anybody else have any questions or anything?
Or request who they want to talk about?
Simply Jackie, if you had just entered, we had just finished our podcast. We are doing another one November 30th at 6:30. It's going to be on Joshua Dotson. He's a self-proclaimed serial killer. So that should be kind of interesting.
So if I say I'm a self-proclaimed millionaire, does that mean I am?
Well, you're about to be.
Must have been on Facebook. It must be true.
Well, we are on Facebook. Like I had just said, Pure Evil Inside the Mind of Serial Killers. We're also, one affiliated with us is K-E-A-M Blasner. It also says on their serial killers right next to it, that's us. If we have any changes, we'll put that on there. We are on YouTube. But the same thing, Pure Evil Inside the Mind of Serial Killers. Now, it'll say, did you mean with the S, and you just click with a Z, and then you'll see us on there. But we did one on John Venables today, and Robert Thompson, and how they killed a little boy, little James. Which that was really sad. Very sad on that. But we will see you guys on the 30th at 6:30. Hope to see you guys back. Three participants. All right.
Do you?
Okay. Now, this, we're gonna name, was the kid's name? James Bugler?
Yeah. B-O-G-E-R.
Murder of 2-year Paul James Bugler. How did we spell it?
What?
B-U-L.
G-E-R-S, isn't it? Why is it not letting me open anything?
Because it says you will not be able to connect. Do you want to